How's it going, everybody? It's Jake Stambro here again with the Down with the Roots podcast. We've got a very special guest today within our Open Gym Premier offices. John Egidio joins us for another episode. And John, that's something we kind of start off with every episode is kind of tell the story about you, and you can take it as far back as you'd like. But
Yeah.
tell a story about John Egidio and this thing really, I think you're trying to get off the ground, and is really, I think, a great idea. FAYS.
Awesome. Hey, first of all, thanks for having me on today, Jake. I appreciate it and appreciate the platform to be able to come on and talk a little bit about FAYS. Um, yeah, first of all, my background is, I played and I coached at the community college level years ago. And then most recently, I've been running my own youth basketball organizations down in San Diego. Top Gun basketball from 2009 to 2016, and then FAYS from 2017 to 2024. I'm sorry, Thrive from 2017 to 2024.
Yeah.
And just been in this landscape for a long time. Also during that time, I was an athletic director at a small school down in San Diego as well. Worked in the CIF realm, and just always been interested in making the youth basketball landscape as good as it can be, better,
Sure.
improving it, and doing it in a way where we're kind of coming alongside of clubs and help supporting them. So when this opportunity presented itself with FAYS, which stands for the Federation for Advancing Youth Sports, and obviously starting in my wheelhouse or our wheelhouse with the basketball realm, I jumped at it, and I thought it was a great opportunity and a great time to kind of lean into this landscape and hope to improve it. So yeah, that's kind of the backdrop of how we got here, where we are today.
Sure. So, obviously, for people that don't know and aren't familiar, they get a synopsis of obviously advancing youth sports, but
Yeah.
what ultimately is more the detailed goal, the specific goal of what you guys are trying to do, and where do you see that in the next 5-10 years?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I know it's broad when we say advancing youth sports, but we kind of have this trio of pillars that we're working through to improve, govern, and grow. And that's kind of our focal point of what we're trying to do. But it's really FAYS is a governing body for the club basketball scene. And I think the people that have been in club basketball for as long as you have or as long as I have, first of all, we recognize how great it is. There's so many positive things that are happening in the landscape that I think sometimes are just underreported or not reported, or we kind of turn a blind eye to. But there's men and women that are making a difference every single day in the lives of kids through basketball, right? But at the same time, if we're being honest with ourselves, I think we recognize that there's just some things that could be better and could be better managed. And I think we're trying to lean into those. And again, when we say govern, it's not so much from a top-down, hammer down situation, more coming alongside of clubs, giving them support, presenting a positive message around what they're doing, and like you, kind of giving them another platform to where, they could just promote the positive things that they're doing within their organizations.
Sure, sure. And it's actually funny. I'll tell a story, and maybe you can piggyback off this.
Sure.
I was at an event recently, and a prominent Orange County family. I think I told you this story before, but came up to me and they were expressing their frustrations within the basketball space, and they said, well, why can't basketball be more like volleyball? As a volleyball family. And I said, well, what do you mean? And they said, well, there should be a governing body, just like volleyball has. So, interesting concept. I don't know if, you want to kind of speak to that as well, but I think there's an opportunity there.
We believe there's an opportunity there as well. That's why, we're here in this moment and at this time. And, during these last 6 months, as I've been starting to just, eke our way up to ramping this up, I've studied the other clubs and other sports and reached out to some of the other governing bodies and had really positive conversations about some of the things that they're doing. Look, I understand that basketball was started club first, and now we're trying to add a governing body on top of it. It's kind of like putting Jack back in the box a little bit. But again, I think the approach is find ways to make things easier, better, more systematic, and have it be an outlet and a voice for the clubs that are functioning right now. Be that place where they can come and talk to and begin to start to implement positive change within the system, like a volleyball or soccer or some of the other club systems that are out there that are really top down and functioning from that level.
Sure.
Yeah.
What are some misconceptions you would say? I know you've talked to a lot of program directors. It sounds like you've talked to some governing bodies as well. Obviously, you've got a background in sports and the youth space. What are some misconceptions you think about club basketball? Maybe it's different than other sports, but specifically club basketball. What are some misconceptions?
I think if you're not here every weekend or even on the weekdays at practices, witnessing kind of like we witness, if you've just looked at social media as your only outlet for what's going on in the club basketball landscape, it would be highly negative. I see the term money grab a lot used, and I think it's false, and I think somewhat derogatory and not accurate to what is actually going on. I think obviously finance is a consideration within our space, and I think we're people that are running clubs like what you guys do at Open Gym and all your affiliate brands. I think there's constant communication, there's constant brainstorming about ways to make it as cost effective for people that are coming through the door as much as possible. So that's one thing. The term money grab dilutes the amount of work that actually goes in by countless people to make this just try to put on as positive experience as they can for the kids that are coming through. Second thing is, I think scholastic sports gets more credit for this, but I see it when we're talking about running a club or coaching a team. I think the men and women that are coaching are having a positive impact on kids' lives. I think the things that we're talking about, building character, helping kids overcome adversity, helping with time management, really diving and leaning into the lives of the young people that they're serving through coaching. I think that's happening, and I don't think that part's reported enough. I see it every day where coaches are making a difference in the kids' lives, even at the club level, whereas I think we just associate that so much with the school level. There's so many people that do it well and are certainly in club sports for the right reasons because they love the sport and they love the kids.
Sure. And that's a big reason I feel like we have this podcast too, is just to tell people stories, and that's awesome.
I think what you're doing is really cool, man. I think for the club coaches don't really have a platform like maybe a high school or certainly a college coach does to be able to tell a little bit about themselves or kind of about their club. So, I know you two are in the early phases of what you're doing, but I think it's really cool.
Awesome. Well, what's one positive thing you would say, about grassroots basketball as it stands right now? Again, obviously you've talked with a lot of people and reviewed a lot of things. And what's one negative thing that you feel like has to change?
Yeah, so over the course of, I've said, over the course of the last few months, I've had amazing conversations. Most recently, I've been talking to event operators from across the country. And I think one positive thing is how much they care about the customer experience. Mm-hmm. Look, I know the way that youth club basketball is set up is that there's a team fee and then you have to pay at the door and potentially have to pay at parking. I know look, and now I am a parent and I'm going through it. I know that that's not the most ideal situation and it's difficult, but there's a reason that those costs are kind of broken down that way. And overall, my point is the event operators are trying to think through the customer experience as much as they can, both the players' experience and the parents that are coming through the door. They don't want it to be, they want to make sure that whatever you're paying for, the value you're getting from that experience is met. And I think if they had a platform to be able to say that is exactly what they say. There are costs associated with running tournaments, and they are diligently trying to find ways to save costs to be able to keep the price of what they're charging down. And they realize that this is a sacrifice for parents, and they want to bring the value to that experience for them.
Sure. Well, you've hit on this a little bit, obviously talking about different sports. You see this a lot and youth basketball, and I think more so maybe back in the day as opposed to now. I feel like a lot of kids specialize in things,
Yeah.
but being with FAYS, it's kind of encompassing sports in general. What are your thoughts on multiple sport athletes and are is it mostly positive? Are there some negatives? What do you think of people how it's kind of changing today?
It was a different time when I was growing up, but I got to play three sports in high school and I loved it. And I had a group of buddies that we kind of just played football in the fall, and then we rolled the basketball in the winter, and we rolled the baseball in the spring. And I believe in the multi-sport athlete journey. I have two little girls right now that are going through it. They're younger. They're 7 and 9, but we're sampling everything just to kind of see what they like and what they fit with and kind of where they want to pour in. And yeah, I think the onset of club sports may make it a more difficult, plight to play multiple sports. But I think the proof is in the pudding that if you can find a way to play multiple sports, then overall, kind of coming toward the end of your high school, getting into your college career, the well-roundedness of your athleticism starts to show. And I think if you even talk to college coaches, they prefer boys and male and female athletes that have played multiple sports, at least at some part of their journey. I think the one thing that I'd like to say from a club perspective is I have never seen a club say if a family came to a club and said, "Hey, we're going to take this season off and we're going to go play soccer." I don't think there's as heavy a pushback as what the conception is, the misconception is. I think coaches understand. I think clubs understand. And even within their business models, they probably have ways that they can circumvent that one or two or multiple athletes leaving for a season and then coming back and having a spot for them to come back. So I think they encourage it too. I think that is the biggest misconception, is that the outside world just think clubs only want athletes for themselves and continuously pull them into their sport. Look, they do want them to play their sport, obviously, but I think they're totally understanding of needing a season or two off. And the last thing I'll say, before, I'll let you talk on this topic too, but I just think that, go ahead.
No, I think it's an interesting concept. Is that you see a lot of kids these days, specializing in things, and the world, I think in general, is getting more and more competitive with social media and the limelight. So kids focusing on a particular sport, I think, goes to combat those things, but also too, I mean, I think it eliminates opportunities.
Yeah.
Everyone develops at different rates within different sports. There's no telling on growth spurts and all kinds of different things. So to eliminate some options, I think is probably not the best thing when you're real young. But I think eventually, at some point, I think specialization may need to be considered, and it's something that I think club directors and organizations like FAYS can really take a part in.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what I was remember now what I was going to say, and just to kind of add to your talk there, is that I think it comes down to the individual athlete and the family. I think it's hard to pass judgment one way or another on what the family is experiencing. I think when clubs are encouraging you to commit to a certain sport at a young age, I think there's probably a detriment to that. I don't think a whole lot of that is going on. And like you said, I think there is a point in time, maybe at the high school level, where if you're playing 3 or 4 sports, you start to get down to primarily one and maybe a secondary sport for those early years, especially if you can see a path forward with athletics, right? But I think as much education as parents can get on both being a single sport athlete quickly and doing the multi-sport athlete thing and condensing later, I think they should try to talk to as many people as they can and find as much data on that as they can to see which path is best for them. That's number one. But number two is you have to know these families and you have to know these athletes to really understand, where for our sport basketball fits for them or soccer fits for the right family or whatever. It's an important part of their life, right? And I think we should equip them with as much instruction and as much data as they need and encourage them to have opportunities to play multiple sport. But then the last piece is to really be careful about passing judgment on the decisions they make from there, because it might be right for a kid that just loves basketball to start to specialize at fifth, sixth grade.
Sure. I mean, and especially too, I mean, I think that the common goal in all this that is rooted, and obviously you have NIL these days, is a free education. I don't think any family is going to turn down a free education. So, having the opportunity to play, a soccer, a football, things of that nature, I think can only benefit somebody. And don't close too many doors when you don't have to.
And I think the people that are in it day to day, like you and I think we're perfectly aware of, we try to be as aware of we can of both physical injury and the mental health of the athletes. We care. Coaches care about the well-being of their athletes, right? If they feel like a kid, sprains an ankle, I don't think they're forcing them back out there to play. Or if they feel like a kid needs a mental time off away from a sport, even if you're a specialized single sport athlete, maybe you just need time away from that sport. Doesn't mean you have to be playing another sport necessarily, but maybe you need a little time away from the sport that you've chosen. And I think that too is just a misconception. I think the coaches truly care about the kids and want what's best for them and want them to be as well-rounded as possible.
Sure. Well, hey, John, I appreciate you coming on the podcast today. Always good to have somebody in the office. This is the first time we've had somebody in the office, and really like what you're doing with FAYS and everything that.
Well, I love what you're doing with the podcast. Thanks for giving club coaches and programs a platform to do and say their piece. So I appreciate you having me on today.
Absolutely, brother.
Awesome. Thanks a lot.
Sounds good.